Welcome back to the Quarterly Call. All content is for informational purposes and is not investment advice. Please consult with an investment professional. We're all using smartphones and computers more and more these days, right?
Absolutely. It's incredible how integral they've become to our daily lives.
And behind the scenes, there's this company, ASML, that's kind of like the unsung hero making it all possible.
They really are. ASML is the leading manufacturer of these things called lithography systems, which are like essential for making the chips that our entire digital world runs on.
Exactly. They're like the wizards behind the curtain. And they just had their Q4 2024 earnings call.
Oh, yeah. Did you have a chance to listen in?
I did. It was super interesting. They revealed a ton of insights about where the semiconductor industry is headed. Like, we're in this crazy time right now where AI is just exploding.
Oh, absolutely. AI is the hot topic, without a doubt.
But other areas of tech, like smartphones, are kind of leveling off a bit.
Yeah.
So how does a company like ASML deal with that sort of situation?
Well, it's a really fascinating challenge for them. Think of it this way. You've got this enormous demand for the most cutting-edge chips to power all these AI applications.
Yeah, things like high-performance computing and high-bandwidth memory, right?
Exactly. And high bandwidth memory is really crucial because it allows for super fast processing of massive amounts of data, which is what AI needs to learn and grow.
Right, AI is hungry for data.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The more traditional markets for chips, like smartphones, aren't seeing the same kind of growth anymore. So ASML has to find that sweet spot where they can meet the needs of both these super advanced AI applications as well as those more traditional tech markets.
Yeah, it sounds like a delicate balancing act for them.
It definitely is.
Well, it seems like they're doing a pretty good job so far. They just blew past their sales expectations for Q4, pulling in a whopping $9.3 billion.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
It really is, and I think it speaks to their ability to cater to such a wide range of needs in the chip-making world. They're seeing strong demand for both the really advanced EUV lithography systems.
The ones that create those bleeding edge chips.
Yeah, those are the ones.
Yeah.
But also for their more traditional non-EUV systems.
Right, because not every chip needs to be the absolute most cutting edge, right?
Exactly. But here's where things get really interesting. ASML pretty much came out and said that AI is now the main driving force behind growth in the entire chip industry.
That's a bold statement.
Right. It basically means that all those companies that design and manufacture chips are now prioritizing the most advanced technology specifically for AI.
And that has huge implications, not just for the tech industry, but for all of us.
Okay, so let's bring this down to earth for our listeners. What does this whole AI-driven chip demand actually mean for the average person?
Well, as AI gets more and more powerful, it's going to touch every aspect of our lives. Think about it. Faster, more capable smartphones, self-driving cars that can actually handle complicated situations.
Like rush hour traffic.
Exactly. And even things like breakthroughs in medicine and scientific research that we couldn't even have dreamed of before. It's all powered by those chips, the ones that ASML's machines are helping to create.
So in a way, ASML is kind of quietly powering the entire AI revolution.
You could definitely say that. They're supplying the tools that make all this incredible progress possible.
Now, looking ahead, ASML has predicted revenue of somewhere between $30 billion and $35 billion for 2025. But they added a little caveat there. The top end of that range really hinges on whether companies can actually build enough capacity to keep up with this insane demand for AI chips.
Ah, yes, that's a critical point. You can have the most brilliant chip designs in the world, but if you can't actually produce them at the scale you need, you run into a bottleneck.
So it's not just about having the tech itself, it's about having the infrastructure to build the tech.
Exactly. Building the facilities needed to manufacture these super advanced chips is a long and complicated process. It requires massive investments, super detailed planning, and a workforce that's really skilled. It's like, imagine building a skyscraper.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
We need the right materials, the right equipment, and the right people to make it happen.
It all takes time,
Yeah.
which is something that the fast-paced world of AI might not have a lot of.
Right, that's the real challenge. ASML is betting big on the continued growth of AI, but there are always these outside factors that could throw a wrench in things.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of what ASML actually has up their sleeve. They've been talking about this new technology called high NA EUV.
Oh, high NA EUV, that's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really does sound like it could be a game changer.
It has the potential to be. It's the next generation of lithography technology, and it brings some serious advantages to the table.
Like what? Tell us more.
Okay, so imagine a camera. You know how a regular lens can capture a certain amount of detail? But a really high-end professional lens, one with a higher numerical aperture, which is what NA stands for,
Ah, okay.
can capture way more detail, the finer points.
So basically, high NA EUV is like upgrading chip making to a professional-grade camera lens.
Exactly. It allows ASML to create even smaller, more complex features on those tiny chips, and that translates to more transistors squeezed into the same area.
So more power and efficiency.
Precisely, and that's absolutely essential for keeping up with the demands of all these AI applications.
And you know what? I hear they've already started putting these high NA EUV systems into customer facilities, right?
Yeah, they have. In fact, two of those systems were fully installed and accepted by customers back in Q4 of 2024.
Wow, so this is already happening.
And get this, a third system is on its way. They've already run over 10,000 wafers through these new machines, which is a huge milestone.
That's incredible. So it's not just a pie-in-the-sky idea anymore. It's actually out there in the real world.
Exactly, and it's generating a ton of buzz in the industry because it has the potential to make chip production much cheaper in the long run.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, right now, to create those intricate features on a chip, it often requires multiple patterning steps.
Okay.
But with high-NA EUV and its ability to create those really fine details in fewer steps, they could potentially cut out some of those extra steps altogether.
Ah, so making the whole process more efficient and less costly.
Precisely. It's a win-win situation. But of course, it's not all smooth sailing. ASML has mentioned they're a bit cautious about their 2025 outlook.
Why is that?
Well, a couple of reasons. They mentioned the possibility of push-outs from customers, and then there's the whole issue of ongoing geopolitical uncertainties, which are always a wild card.
Okay, so break that down for me. What do they mean by pushouts?
Think of it like planning a trip. You might have this perfect itinerary, but sometimes life happens, right? Friends have to reschedule, traffic pops up, or maybe you decide to change your route.
I see what you mean.
In ASML's case, pushouts mean some companies might have to delay their orders for a bunch of reasons, which could end up affecting their revenue projections.
Makes sense. And those geopolitical uncertainties, those are a big deal these days, aren't they?
Absolutely. We're living in a world where global trade tensions and export controls can have a massive impact on businesses, especially in tech. ASML has to walk a very careful line in navigating all these complex political landscapes.
For sure. And speaking of those political landscapes, let's talk about China for a minute. ASML's sales to China were unusually high in 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, I saw that. What was driving that surge?
Well, it turns out they were mostly fulfilling a backlog of orders from previous years. They had all these pre-ordered systems that they had to deliver.
Oh, so it was like a temporary spike in demand, not necessarily a fundamental shift in their market strategy.
That's right. And they're actually expecting sales to China to drop back to a more normal level in 2025, which they're estimating will be around 20% of their total sales.
Okay, so why the shift back down?
It's probably a combination of things. The export controls we were just talking about definitely play a role because they restrict selling certain kinds of advanced tech to China.
Right.
And on top of that, China has been pumping tons of money into its own domestic semiconductor industry. They're really trying to become more self-sufficient when it comes to chip production.
That makes sense. So as their own capabilities grow, they might need companies like ASML less and less.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic between global politics and technological advancement, isn't it?
Yeah.
But all in all, it seems like ASML is still feeling pretty optimistic about the future, even with all these uncertainties.
They are, and they're continuing to put a lot of resources into research and development, constantly pushing the limits of what's possible with lithography technology.
Which is great news for all of us, because
Yeah.
it means our devices are only going to get cooler and more powerful.
Exactly, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg of what ASML had to say on their earnings call. So we've been talking a lot about what's happening right now and in the near future, but what about the bigger picture? What's ASML got planned for the long haul, say 2026 and beyond?
Well, they seem really focused on making their whole manufacturing process way more efficient.
Right. Remember we were talking about that bottleneck? They're basically trying to widen the road, so to speak,
Okay.
by streamlining how they do things and offering customers quicker turnaround times for those super complicated machines they build.
It's pretty amazing how, even with all the uncertainty in the world right now, they're still pouring so much into the future of chip making. I mean, that's got to be a good sign, right?
Absolutely. It shows they're confident about the industry's growth over the long term, especially with that big shift towards all things AI.
It really is mind-blowing to think about what the future might hold. We've already seen AI do some crazy things, like recognizing images, processing language, even creating art and music.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. As chip technology keeps advancing, partly because of ASML's innovations, we can expect even more incredible breakthroughs with AI. Imagine things like personalized medicine becoming the standard, robots working side by side with humans in all sorts of industries, and virtual reality experiences that are so real you can't tell the difference.
Now, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's all becoming more and more realistic. And it's important to remember that all this progress stems from those tiny but mighty chips that ASML's machines help create.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't as deep into the tech world as we are, what's the main takeaway here? Why should they care about what ASML is up to?
I think it comes down to this. When ASML does well, it means better, faster, more powerful technology ends up in your hands. It means advancements across every industry you can imagine: healthcare, transportation, entertainment, education. It's all about shaping a future where technology improves our lives in ways we can barely even fathom right now.
Now, that's a reason to pay attention. But let's be real for a second. The semiconductor industry is known for being pretty unpredictable. Things change quickly, and you never know what curveballs are going to come your way. So, is ASML's optimism realistic? Can they really keep up with this crazy demand and handle all the geopolitical stuff going on?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They have an incredible track record when it comes to innovating and adapting, but there are always those external forces that can throw them off course.
Kind of like watching a tightrope walker, right?
Exactly. High stakes, but the potential payoff is huge. If ASML can pull it off, it means a brighter, more connected, more technologically advanced future for everyone.
And that's definitely a future worth striving for. But with all this focus on cool new tech and the possibilities of AI, we should also think about the ethics of it all.
You're right, that's crucial. As AI becomes more sophisticated and woven into our lives, we need to consider how it might impact society.
We got to make sure AI is being developed and used responsibly, right? Without reinforcing biases or leading to unintended consequences.
Exactly. These are tough questions that require careful thought and open discussion. But we can't ignore the potential benefits of AI. I think the key is to find that balance between progress and responsibility.
It's a conversation we need to have as we venture further into this uncharted territory.
Yeah, it's been a really fascinating look under the hood, and I think our listeners probably have a much better grasp now of how important ASML is in shaping the tech we use every single day.
Hopefully they'll come away with a sense of just how complex and innovative it is to make those tiny chips that power our world. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. I think next time I pick up my phone or open my laptop, I'm going to be thinking about the journey that chip has been on, from design to manufacturing and all the global economics and politics that influenced it all.
It really is a remarkable story, and ASML is right at the center of it all, constantly pushing the limits of what's possible.
And as we've been discussing, it's not just about their own success, right?
No, not at all. It's like a gauge for the health of the entire tech industry. If ASML is doing well, it means the demand for advanced chips is strong, which means we're going to see more innovation and progress across all these different sectors, like consumer electronics and healthcare and transportation.
It's like a ripple effect that ultimately benefits everyone, leading to a more connected and technologically advanced world.
And even though there are always challenges and roadblocks, I think it's safe to say that the future of chip making and everything that it makes possible is looking pretty bright.
I definitely agree with you there. ASML's commitment to pushing the boundaries of what's possible with lithography, combined with the increasing demand for AI, paints a really optimistic picture of what's to come.
Well said. And on that note of technological optimism, I think it's about time for us to wrap things up. Thank you so much for tuning into the Quarterly Call. For more episodes, please remember to rate and follow our show. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.